We just finished with our Yacht Club adventure, and we started it yesterday around noon, and we were working with the water element this time and working a lot with water and transforming water. But yesterday we kind of worked on gathering information a lot, didn't we?
We went out on the boat. we looked at dimensions, actually.
Yes, we did.
We saw how land was in a certain dimension, the water's in a dimension.
Clouds were in another.
Clouds were moving rapidly in a dimension without us actually moving, which I thought was
Yep.
Really cool.
really cool. And then how they actually came together was because there was a storm that came up, and then which was a whole nother dimension.
Right, but when we were out there, we were deprogramming the water's distorted structure. Thank you. Distorted structure. So deprogramming the water and deprogramming the distorted structure and bringing in the galactic structure of water. And we had a whole conversation about what the difference was between galactic water and our water here on Earth, and the difference in the two, and why ours was different than the galactic water. Before we did that, if I remember correctly,
Yes,
right?
we did. We talked about quite a bit of different.
Right. And we talked about how water was very magnificent, whether it was peaceful or whether it was a raging storm, that it was magnificent in all its forms. And then how that water actually is inside of us. You know, we're 86% water. Did I get the number right?
Yes, I think you did.
Right? And that exists inside of each and every one of our cells in our bodies, because we're 86% water, that we have that magnificence within us. And so we were really talking about going within as well, right?
Yes. And I believe that's the point where we talked about the solidifying our water and food, and the potential of how eating food keeps us solidified and out of the flow of water. And so we've been looking at that last night and a little bit today as well. That was a new awareness, I think, kind of for all of us at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really understanding how the various forms of water, the solid water, the flowing water, the congested water, really affects not only the planet but us inside. And if we can equalize and normalize outside and inside for the betterment of all of us.
And then that storm came up, and we raced back to
The
dock, so a more safe place than where we were out in the bay there, or in the center of the Missouri. And so as we were racing back, we were deprogramming all that water so it would spread from there to all bodies of water, because the Missouri will lead to eventually all bodies of water.
Because there needs to be a component of movement,
Right.
Yeah.
which was why the storm came up, and then it dissipated. Didn't even storm, of course. So then we went back out onto the water, and what did we do there?
Well, what I want to step back just a minute, because it just dawned on me now that we couldn't dock.
Oh yeah, we couldn't.
We couldn't dock. There was something that just kept not letting us dock, as if to say, you're not done yet, you need to go back out. And that was accurate.
Yeah.
That was very accurate, but it didn't dawn on me at the time. So that's kind of interesting. And when did we pull the bubbles out for the dimensions?
Oh, that's
Right then.
Right then.
It was the holograms.
Exactly. Oh yeah, holograms. I said dimensions.
So
holograms.
Bev bought these wonderful wand bubbles, which were really cool. So we started doing those, and you could actually see holograms of different dimensions, literally. There were dragon eyes and
faces,
lots of faces,
Planets.
planets.
whole solar systems in some of them.
Yeah,
They were really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And they actually showed up. Some of them showed up on photos, so we have
We've
evidence.
got some good pictures. We've got some good pictures.
Then we moved into mission. Like, what's our new mission? Like, what's the mission of changing the earth and becoming more conscious beings? And so that was that led into basically the evening. And
Mm-hmm.
so we know that those are changing constantly, but what are we agreeing to? Like, what are we answering the call to do? And knowing that we hold the power to decide, to make the decision about what the mission will be and how we will carry it out. Not how we're not victimized to anything or anyone. And I think that that's one of the key empowerment codes that are creating the new earth. That's when you're moving into a different conscious level of awareness, that you're holding all the keys. Nobody holds them outside of you. You're the one that holds the keys. And so I think that was a big shift when we did that.
Yeah.
When that awareness was brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sat and watched the sunset.
Oh, yes, we did. And we had our little honeycomb come in again.
Yeah. So we see these, there's a certain point in the sunset where there's like these, is it octagon kind of shapes that appear, and they appear at like, not just at the horizon, they appear above us and in the waters, and they would change the waters different color. And some of them, for me, some of them grew and got more circular. And when I asked, what are you, and what's your purpose, and all I heard was, we are the unseen. So that was kind of, I don't know what that was. I'm sure we'll find out.
Stay tuned. Yeah. Stay tuned for
Next
the answer to that. But that was really awesome to see again.
And all of us seen them, not just one.
Right.
And even the guys that were on the trip actually saw them as well. So.
And they were everywhere on both sides and above us, and many colors changing. Some locations were one color, another location was another color, and they weren't a pattern. They were multi-shapes and placements. It was fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
I think you missed this, Angie, because I think you went back to the back of the boat by that point. But I did turn to, I think it was Renee, and said, what if everything that is seen has an unseen piece to it? And that's what we're seeing.
Yes.
That makes total sense.
Yes, it does. Yes.
I'm still not quite sure what we're going to do with that yet. But that
Makes sense.
You did.
And my head is tingling, so.
I saw dolphins jumping in the water. Granted, we're in the Missouri River where there aren't any dolphins, but I was seeing dolphins in the water, and you guys were seeing a bird or something in the sky, weren't you?
Well, there was something.
It was
over
something.
there.
I'm not sure what that thing was, but.
And I interpreted it to be a phoenix.
Oh. Well, that seems accurate as well. Yes.
Because all of a sudden it was there and then it was not.
Yeah. And that was a big shift in our awareness right about that time. So it makes total sense.
Way to go.
And then we played a little bit because the moon came out and everybody pulled out their phones to download the sky maps or the star maps or whatever. We were playing with those for a little bit, so we just were giggling, having a good time.
Yeah, having fun.
We were experiencing the beauty of the night.
Yeah, the moon and the stars and how the water turns black. Mysteriously black.
Angie couldn't convince any of us to go into it though.
No, wasn't gonna happen.
Next time.
There you go. There you go.
So that was pretty much it for yesterday.
Yeah.
So this morning we got up and started by having an in-depth conversation about the illusion.
Mm-hmm.
How to get out of the illusion is what we were talking about.
How to move into essence versus free will, or what we believe to be free will, which we now know is just basically our force. And in creating or being in the illusion, and making a decision to either stay in the illusion or to be into essence, which again is a big shift in our consciousness. And I feel like that's what the New Earth is all about, is making that decision to not play in the illusion of third dimension any longer. And you can play in other dimensions if you like, but I'm just going to start playing in essence, pure essence, because I don't like the dimensional things. It's too much work.
Which came up with the equation for work,
It
which
did.
is force times distance. So we were like, well, that's really interesting, because that came up in the conversation when we were talking about what free will was, and that being force, and that force equaled work in that equation anyways. So that was interesting. We also set the intention to, and I'm going to not get this correct exactly, but to not be in an ego dimension today.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
I know there was more to it than that, but I don't remember what the whole statement was.
Yeah.
And that worked out pretty well, actually. I mean, there were a couple times where maybe, the ego tried to come in and make a decision or something, but it was very obvious, I want to say, when that actually happened, which if you're creating intentions and you live your life by intentions, I mean, that's probably maybe one that we can all experience and do every single day, is that we just intend to not live in an ego-based dimension or have those experiences throughout the day. So,
And it's relatively easy to do. It takes a great deal of awareness. However, once you realize that it's the ego talking, then the awareness drops in. It's very easy to go from the flow, from essence. And it's more satisfying to live that way.
yeah.
Very much so.
Because it makes you feel in charge. Like you're the one that has the control instead of you being controlled by the ego. It's your soul self, your essence is the one that's making the decisions and deciding to either flow through life or to work through life, right? So that, I mean, that's the empowerment component. Like when we say you need to stand in your power, I feel like that's the empowerment component that we've been talking about, but that maybe we just have not actually had the words to say this is what it means.
Right. So we were really, in that discussion about illusion, I'm going to kind of define it a little bit, the ultimate realization or recognition that we got was the difference that we really don't have free will here. That's really a lie, and the difference between what free will and freedom was. And none of this seems to really fit in with water. That was our theme, right? It didn't seem to fit in with water, but we had this whole conversation, and then we asked, okay, what are we doing today? What's our adventure today? And the response we got was that we needed to unlock the codes of freedom in the water today, so basically we're deprogramming the free will in the water and unlocking the actual essence of freedom in the water. And so that was what started us off on our afternoon adventure today, right? That's where it led.
It certainly did.
And we knew we needed to go someplace, but we weren't 100% sure where we needed to go. Just that there was a purpose of that eventually we were going to end up back at the Missouri somewhere with our feet in the water, and that we needed to bring chocolate with us.
Which kind of came out of nowhere too.
Which came out of nowhere too. And we had to bring the bubble wands with us.
Yep.
This is a very weird thing sometimes for us, but that's what happened.
It's part of the adventure.
It's part of the adventure.
It is.
and having fun doing it. It's not all serious.
Yes.
It brings the joy into
Yes.
what we're doing so that it's like, aha,
Yes.
that's why we were talking about that particular thing and how it,
Right, because we had a conversation about chocolate.
yeah,
first.
because it comes back to this. So it's a really eye-opening experience in how messages are given to us and how we can listen to them so we know where to move with them or to allow them to flow through us, I guess. Not even move with them, but
And how to take your everyday conversations to a whole different level.
yeah.
And experience the level, right? Like experience that kind of a level where there's something meaningful rather than, well, how's the weather today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, there was a storm, but it didn't actually happen because we did this.
And that was an interesting piece as well. It takes us back a little bit, but it was all of a sudden we knew we were working with water. We had the, I'm going to just say, assumption that it was the Missouri River. However, rain and water, storm water is also water. So we did have that awareness of like, aha, well, water's water. So that was pretty cool too.
So we hopped in the car, and we literally were just like left or right? Like that was what we did because we really didn't know where we were going. Again, we seem to have this theme on our adventures where we don't know where we're going, and
We just trust.
we just trust.
Yes.
And almost always we were all getting the same answer. All
Yep.
four of us.
Pretty
much
almost
all.
always, yeah.
I think there's a couple times somebody didn't get an answer, but otherwise, I think the answers we
Was
did
always
get were
either
all the
left
same
or straight or-
right,
yeah.
or- and then we did end up down at the Missouri, but we ended up at what is that place down there? I called it the Hanging Tree. For lack of better wording, there was this tree there, and for me that was a little bit of a past life experience with Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea, and this kind of an image of people being hung on this tree, and then for me there was some guilt and some pieces there that I had to clean up for me personally with that past life experience that I'd had there. And Bev, you were there as well, I believe.
Yes, I was there and had to clean up some guilt and forgive self for my participation in the event.
Yeah, there were several past life things that were cleaned up today or uncreated, transformed, which we didn't know at the beginning. And so again, part of the adventure is, being able to like heal up some of these old wounds that we either carry or the land carries or, the water carries somewhere, somehow. So we spent a good portion of today going to different places in the community and doing that. So that was really fun.
That was really cool.
Yeah, we moved to Portal, and
Yep,
we
we did.
cleaned up some energy.
Activated some other energy and
Yep.
created a energy for some of the land mass here that had been stifled.
And then we did eventually end up back at the
Yeah, we
Missouri
did,
in
we
a
did.
different spot where we did put our feet in the water.
Yes.
We
And blew the bubbles.
did blew the bubbles and ate the chocolate and did the activation of freedom.
Yeah. The freedom codes into the water.
Yes.
I also want to go back to the hanging tree, not your hanging tree.
Oh, thanks.
The hanging tree.
I didn't do the hanging.
I know, it wasn't you. I know.
I was just there.
You were you were trying to be more than the observer, but yes. Anyhow, I want to go back to the bubbles. Do you remember what the bubbles looked like in that space?
That's
In
correct.
that,
Yes.
the bubbles were completely different than they were when we were on the river. They looked different. They didn't hold the color.
Right.
They were really clear.
They were just pure. Like
Yeah.
Ange said, they were just pure bubbles. So that was an interesting
It was interesting
piece to look at.
how they changed like dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday on the water, they were very colorful and playful and dimensional, like you could see the holograms within the bubbles. And today there was no color. They were just clear. There was no pictures inside. They weren't even holographic. They were very like a pure kind of, I want to say, essence almost to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a Christmas ornament that's just a
Clear
ball. They were the purest clarity. You could even see the colors of the earth or the trees around us or anything. It was just, they were just clear.
It was very different.
They were very different.
Yeah. And they were pretty much all the same size.
Oh,
Yes, they
that's
were.
right.
Yes, they were.
Yes.
Where yesterday they were playful and all different sizes and they'd hook together and
And they'd split like amoebas.
Yes, they would. Yes.
But we learned also at that spot about pure nature energy, which many of us had not felt before. And we initially interpreted it somewhat negatively because we're unfamiliar with it. Once we understood that it's uncluttered, natural image or energy, and realized how the different foliage and the trees contributed to that along with the water, it brought a great deal of understanding of how the world and energy works.
And we did the bubbles again after we activated the water when we put our feet in. And then they were like almost a pure gold.
Yeah, they were very
Yes.
gold.
They were
Very
very gold. It was that again. They changed. It was
Mhm.
very interesting because we were back on the Missouri,
Back by water,
Back by
you
water,
know.
and we would have thought that they would have been the same as they were yesterday, but they were different.
They were golden.
they were very gold.
Very golden.
And again, they were mostly about the same size.
And less prolific than they were on the water. Fewer bubbles than what we got using on the water.
Yeah.
That was pretty much our adventure. There was a lot more that we just kind of skimmed over because this is a video and we can only say so much.
Yeah.
But is there anything we
These are
missed
the
that
highlights.
great somebody else wants to jump in and say, did something else that really struck you as an important part of the adventure that we didn't talk about?
Well, we already talked about this, but the one thing that was really like profound for me was how we solidified the body, the water in our body, so that we don't flow. And I think that was almost a shock. I want to say.
Well, it was
to me, because it makes perfect sense of how we try to make the physicalness of us and the earth solid, right? Like, so that's it's a grounding point, or it's a support that we that I think we almost desire because of the belief systems and the experience here, so that we don't feel like we're out of control. When in actuality, all it does is control us. I think that was a huge. There was a huge shifting component there for me. So, yeah. So,
I guess for me, one of the things which I see all the time, which just was again an amazing thing, is watching the shifts and how quickly they would take place. I mean, once we understood and had all the pieces together, it wasn't a 45-minute ritual. It was instantaneously activating codes, and it was just so simple, and you could feel the energy shift. You could just feel everything change, and almost like you were a new person.
yeah.
And that I agree with that. It's actually, for me, very profound how simple it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
We tend to wrap rules. Sarah's favorite thing in the world. We tend to wrap rules and rituals around everything that we do, and it must be thus and thus and thus.
Yeah.
And nothing of what happens on our adventures is that.
No.
That And it's always, it's just simple.
Yes.
We recognize, we say yes, we answer the call and say yes, we recognize what it is, we do our thing, and it's like wonderful. You mean you can just feel your whole body go, whoo.
Yeah.
And
And I think it's the simplicity that allows for us to like move through so many things
quickly because
Like,
of that.
I mean, look
Yes.
at all the things that we moved through this week, and or these 2
In 2
days. I mean, it
days.
feels like a month, but it's 2 days, and it's like how many things did we move through?
Oh, many.
Yeah, yeah. And actually not even 2 days.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, a day and
Exactly.
a half, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
So the simplicity is beautiful as far as I'm concerned. It just,
And we moved through for our personal selves and also for humanity and the planet and the
yes.
galaxies.
Yeah.
yes, and beyond.
Yes.
And it's so simple. And
Yeah.
when we finished, we got the message, it was free and clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we hope that you join us on our next adventure.
Yes.
Highly
Yes,
recommend
yes.
it.